Good evening and welcome to you all. Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm really excited to be bringing us tonight's webinar. My name is Justin Gauci and from Enable Me here, looking to start your year off on the right track, your guide to empowering your finances in 2025. It is still feeling a bit like the new year. We've got that revived energy and spring in our step, so we might have some financial New Year's resolutions you want to tick off. And hopefully tonight's webinar is the first box that you tick to achieve some amazing goals in 2025. A little bit of housekeeping. If we do get time at the end of today to cover off some Q&A, we've received some great questions from those of you that have signed up already. Those on the call tonight, if you do want to leave some questions, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Directed in there, my producer will collate those, and if we can get around to them, so it's the Q&A box, not the chat box, okay? We'll get to that stuff at the very end. Before we get into anything here, I do have to cover off a little disclaimer. The presentation that I'm going through today is for informational purposes only. Okay, the content isn't designed, doesn't know you for your individual circumstances, so it's not a substitute for regulated financial advice. If you would like that specific advice, you do have to meet with a professional to get to know you and your situation and what your goals are. A little bit about who I am. So as I said before, my name is Justin Gauci. I'm one of the financial advisors and strategic coaches here at Enable Me. I've got over 10 years experience as a finance analyst before becoming a personal financial advisor with Enable Me 3 years ago. Look, don't worry, I'm not here to scare or bore you with some daunting graphs or figures or tables or formulas to follow along with. What I do is I help people achieve their full potential in an approachable, practical way. Okay, and why it matters and why I love what I do is I love seeing people achieve their true potential and empower them to take control of their financial freedom. Okay, whether that's getting retirement ready, getting out of short-term debt, saving for a first home, paying off the mortgage, you name it, that's what we do here. Today, we're going to go through a few topics that hopefully can put you in the right direction to empower your finances in 2025. Starting with here, a quote that we love here at Enable Me from much loved author around the business, and what it basically means is the goals and ambition is great, but goals alone are not enough. We need systems to apply to our everyday life to hold us to account to make those goals a reality. So when we think back to finances, what that means is that's understanding your money habits and systems of how money flows so you can empower yourself to take action and achieve success. The systems are your safety net, but also your boost behind you to carry you towards that goal. So a goal for me tonight for this webinar is to help you find some practical steps or systems to help you achieve financial success. Just to start with a straw poll for the people that are on the call this evening, just want to understand how much is your short-term debt. So what I mean by short-term debt, that's credit cards, personal loans, buy now, pay laters, etc. Not things like your student loan or a home mortgage, but yeah, car loans and personal loans. So 0 to 10K, 10 to 20K, 20 to 30, or too big to think about. So I'll just leave this up here for 30, 45 seconds. Let's see where we're all at. And again, there's no shame, anonymous, no right or wrong answers with this. It's just to get a gauge for where everything is at. Okay, so results coming through. So we've got 69% sitting in that 0 to 10, which is fantastic. Hopefully closer to the 0 than the 10 there. Just under 20% sitting 10 to 20. 10% sitting in that 20 to 30, and a small number there in that too big to think about. Look, just a spoiler alert for the small number that there is in that last poll. We do need to think about it. We do need to understand it. That's our way out of it. Okay, so just wanted to get a lay of the land to see where everything's at to start with. So what we're covering off tonight, we need to understand debt itself, why we have it, what its impacts are. Understanding your money habits or money habits as a totality, obviously not getting to know you and your specific situation on a webinar, but understanding what money habits, money personality and behaviors that are linked to those alike, some strategies and support around debt repayment plans, accountability, and ways forward. And then that last piece, depending on time, we've got some great questions and more hopefully coming through as we go. So some Q&A at the very end. Starting here with real, as we said, beginning of the year, real positive vibe with what we're all doing, whether it's in health goals, financial goals, work goals, whatever. We want financial freedom, or we want to achieve financial success. And my key message here is it's within reach for everybody, okay? It's not just for the lucky few. It definitely isn't just for the lucky few. Yes, you might get some stumbling blocks along the way or some free kicks go your way, but you've just got to move forward and understand what to do next to achieve that financial freedom. If we think back to this summer holiday period, financial freedom is like our dream holiday destination. We may have been lucky enough to go on a trip over the Christmas holiday break. It's worth it, when you can put your feet in the sand or in the ocean and you're there at the beach enjoying that holiday and that destination. You forget about the journey along that way, that the waits or the bit of traffic or the waiting time at an airport, etc. That's a little bit what financial freedom's like. Okay, you will enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's not a quick win, sugar rush way to get there. It will take changes in behavior and planning and maps and tools and patience along the way to achieve financial freedom. To start with, as I said, we want to understand, why do people end up in debt? There was a large portion of the poll that we just did coming through with different amounts of short-term debt. Most commonly, it's because there's no emergency funds. Life happens. We get that, okay? And you can't plan for the car blowing up a week after the fridge going, etc. So what we need to build up is financial resilience. And what I mean by that, and what I do with my clients, is looking to get 3 months of living costs on call at all time for those things that we just can't predict. No financial advisor can, hand on heart, predict the future for when a car is going to blow up or you're going to need that emergency fund. But what we can help with is understanding you and your scenario and what your emergency cover needs to be. Another common cause of it is, and it's a rising cause, is social media and instant gratification. The algorithms and payment schemes are out there. They're designed to take our money. They're designed to get us spending more than we had planned to, just by bombarding our news feeds or whatever it is with information or things to buy or ads. Look, not all of those algorithms may be bad, okay? Some can work in your favor. You might have been signed up for today's webinar just with a few things you Googled and my face has come up with an enable me ad, okay? That's what's happening. What you search for comes up for you to just bombard with on your news feed. And if it's 4 items and that you may or may not need, that instant gratification, a couple of clicks on the phone, before you know it, you've bought something that you didn't really value or plan to get, and it spirals you back into that debt trap. Another common cause of that is some of those societal pressures, the things like your birthdays, Christmases, and holidays. That's not to say let's eliminate those, but incorporate them into your plan. They're going to come around next year. Christmas is coming every year, okay? Build a plan that includes those things. So when I go back to that emergency fund, having holidays and gifts and birthdays all accounted for already means they're not another surprise, because if we think about it, they're not a surprise. We should know all the key important birthdays in our life. We know Christmas is coming around in that December period. So account for those along the way. Another common cause is the cash flow gap, okay, or lack of understanding of what that actually means. Cash flow gaps, or cash flow in essence, is a simple formula. It's just income minus expenses. Okay, that's the equation. That's probably the most complex, or hopefully only, equation I go through for the rest of tonight, and hope you understand it really well. Is if there's a gap in that formula, you will end up in debt. Okay, and what I mean by that gap is expenses is greater than income. If that's the case, we need to understand what improvements we can make to get the expense to the best version of yourself. Hopefully by that stage, we've resolved that or got it to a bit of a break even. before we then go to how do we up the income levels, okay? The expense side of it is where you can control in the immediate. There are avenues to increase income, but they might take a little bit longer. And lastly, there's no reason not to spend, okay? So for some people, they can feel a little bit, if they get a bit aimless and don't have a goal to work on, or they feel like things are just too hard and achieving financial success isn't for them, they don't have a reason not to spend. Okay, so it's all just go, and that formula is just not working for them. They just have no motivation for it, and the expense number keeps rising up, and income stays flat, and it goes into that negative equation where expenses is greater than income. Now, it's important to realize that not alone in this. Okay, really want to normalize that struggle that we see with some of the statistics on the screen there. Nearly 3/4 of Kiwis are stressed about money. Okay, that's a large number there. 56% living payday to payday. So that's telling me that there's not a good understanding of that formula of income and expenses. If we're really in that payday to payday version, we haven't probably fully optimized either side, potentially, one side of that equation of income minus expenses. BNPL, so what that stands for is buy now, pay later. So those schemes, look, they are designed to make you lose track of the true cost of the item that you're about to buy. Okay, $150 item advertised as 6 $25 repayments. You don't view it as that $150. You view it as 6 payments of 25. The math of that's the same thing, but how you let go of your money, they want you to let go of more of it. They know that you seeing it as 6 lots of 25, you're more likely to burn that cash. Okay. Over $6 billion worth of outstanding credit card debt. It's a huge figure. Okay, that is massive in a population of New Zealand's size. Studies have shown that people spend 12 to 18% more on a credit basis than debit. So thinking about your card, getting the credit card out and pay waiving it or on a credit card compared to getting that Visa debit card out and putting it on check or savings, 12 to 18% more. If we all weren't spending that is it worth $1 billion of that $6 billion debt is from that overspend. That's crazy, isn't it? $1 billion is just because of that money link and money psychology link to spending out of credit rather than debit. But there's empathy, there's hope with this. You are not alone, okay? But without actions, nothing changes. We just stay part of these statistics, making the banks that endless amount of cash that they make year after year, and these statistics get worse for us, and the profit lines get better for those guys. Now, not all debt is bad debt, okay? Not all debt is equal. Some parts of debt, we don't want to be completely adverse to it. Some of it is used well. And what I mean by that is we take on that debt to build wealth. That's buying things that appreciate in value, things like a home, or to help you grow your income base, things like a student loan, okay? Helping that equation out earlier, that income minus expenses. If you're taking on a student loan, hopefully there's a large portion of that. It is to furthering your studies to career horizons that earn you more and have that greater potential for the future for you to grow wealth. Bad debt, these drain your wealth. Okay, these are buying items that decrease in value or just short-term band-aid solutions on things. So you've got to use debt wisely. Use it on those assets that either investing in yourself, investing in an appreciating asset and not depreciating assets like cars, okay, or buy now, pay later schemes and incurring interest on credit cards for holidays, etc., that we just need to incorporate into our general cash flow planning. A little bit further on that bad debt theme here and digging a little bit deeper. I hear about that credit card points thing so often, okay? And if the statistics, they are what they are, if we're spending 12 to 18% more than we would if we paid on a different payment method, are we really getting anything out of those points, or are we just paying for them ourselves? the banks really enjoy us paying the bill off and not incurring interest because we don't think there's a problem there. The problem lies within the overspend. Now, more and more common, there's surcharges on things like obviously pay wave and whatnot. I think the Commerce Commission said last year that over $100 million was spent on surcharges. Think about that figure for a second. $100 million was spent on our own, as I'm guilty of it. I'm not here casting judgment, pointing fingers, saying I'm perfect on this, but that simple tap notion and that laziness we've had to not push 6 buttons on an FPOS terminal cost $100 million. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Because we just don't view it as, oh, it's just that. It's just 30 cents here. Oh, just $1.20 there. Just this. Add that all up over 365 days, and it could be costing you hundreds or thousands of dollars a year. As I said before, that buy now, pay later stuff, they want to, you lose track of how many you will have if you do have them, and they want you to not attach to that full price value. Personal loans, these tend to be used in emergencies, okay? And part of what I was talking about was we want to build buffers to not need them, okay? So if you do have them, need a plan to get out of those. But if, a solid and strong financial plan should never need to fall back upon personal loans, because 3 to 6 months of, want to start on, as I said before, 3 months of living expenses as the rainy day fund, but building that up to around that 6 months mark, okay? That should eliminate you from falling back into that trap and getting personal loans that have 9, 10, 11, 12% sometimes on those, okay? Or if not worse, depending on your credit score. So the truth about when there's bad debt in place, it tells me there's sometimes a lack of control of the current financial situation. That formula before, expenses are outweighing income. What it does limit growth options. It's a bit like being stuck in quicksand, I say, when you're in that short-term bad debt. Okay, it's hard to get out of because if you've got multiple of them, well, it's hard to keep track of where they might be at. Or if you do have, only 1 or 2, but they have high interest charges, the amount that you're repaying isn't all principal. You're repaying some interest along the way, which keeps you back further. Missed payments, look, they'll hurt credit scores, which hurt you down the track, not for future lending, but also for getting some bills onto direct debits, etc. Tackling debt is a way to restore control, open up opportunities, and, give you that, as I said at the beginning, what I enjoy most, giving you the chance to maximize your true potential. How we address the debt and how we address your situation, it isn't a cookie cutter approach, okay? It needs to get to know you, your situation, your goals, your motivation. Getting out of debt, don't want this to be at all you thinking it's too hard. It is hard, but it's not impossible. I'm not giving out this week's Powerball numbers. So if you're thinking maybe one of the future slides is that, it's not that. It's not a quick fix, but it's not impossible either, okay? And how we do that is understanding your why, understanding your motivation. What works for Gary down the road might not be the best thing for you, okay? And then you end up trying that, failing, and getting stuck further. So it needs to understand you and your why, your goals. Have a solid repayment plan in place. Understand the different ways, which we'll cover off in a little bit of detail in some coming slides, about the best ways out and what could be right for you. And make sure you've got those buffers in place. Be strategic, build resilience up at the same time as repaying debt. One of the big things I talk to some clients that have short-term debt around is, yeah, we want to get it gone, but I also need you to start to build that rainy day fund up, because I don't want you taking 2 steps forward and an unfortunate curveball comes your way and we take 3 steps back, okay? You've got to build buffers while you're being strategic with debt, that debt repayment. But as it says there at the end, nothing worth doing is easy. Okay, it's not as easy, that 1 in 60 million or whatever the equation is to win the lotto. You are taking control of this and making the most of your situation. That's not easy, but it's going to be great at the end of it. And you'll feel so rewarded and so empowered when you're back in control of your finances. Your ability to get ahead is not solely linked to income. Okay, earning more is great. We'd all love it. Okay, but it doesn't guarantee success. Some of the best results I've had with clients are people with modest incomes, okay, but they have great behaviors and strategies in place. I've seen some terrible spending habits too for people on amazing incomes who end up achieving less in the long term. Okay, so it's understanding how you put the right strategy into place consistently. As the formula 80-20 rule that we've got on here says, habits and mindset and sticking to the plan are 4 times more important than the plan itself. Now, that's not discounting the plan at all. You need a plan. That's the starting point. But it's the habits, mindset, consistency, and sticking to it that is worth 4 times the amount. Too many times before, I've seen some people that have come and thought just talking to me or one of the team here is the magic wand that's going to fix everything. Okay, we'll be the helping guiding force and the strategy, but we need to understand your why, your motivating factors to ensure the behaviors follow through. Because as it says there, it is the gold. Okay, that's the magic. So how do we do that? Well, we need to get to know your money personality, your mindset, your spending personality, your attitude towards risk, and your triggers. Now, there's no right or wrong money personality or attitude to risk. Okay, that's one thing I really want to stress before I go into some more details on this stuff, is there is no right or wrong. We're all individuals, okay? I myself would say that I'm a shopper, okay? Many advisors are. And as I'll go to in a second, what is a shopper? Well, they get enjoyment out of the act of spending money. Okay, but we need balance, we need systems, and we need a really, really good goal to work towards. So shoppers can achieve fantastic results, often do. Savers, they're cautious, they will go without, they're quite disciplined. Got to understand what possibilities are out there that they might not be aware of. And plotters is a little bit of both. Okay, they can sometimes feel a little stuck or aimless and just go with it, and sometimes will be just give up mode and spend because they don't know what they're working towards, but they do have some good saver tendencies. Why this stuff matters? Well, the strategy needs to know you. Now, if it's a couple that I'm working with, needs to know both sides of the couple. Majority of couples tend to be a shopper and a saver. Okay, and it's not about a plan that beats down the shopper and picks on them to completely change and not enjoy life. Okay, it's about bringing alignment. It's about the saver understanding that there's going to be an amazing outcome at the end of this, and the shopper knows that they are contributing towards this, and it brings synergy between the two. Okay, so it eases some potential money conflicts that those two personalities may have. And as I said before, neither of them is right or wrong. They just need guidance. Your approach to risk. So we identified 3 risk types: a safety warden, an adventurer, and a dreamer. Safety wardens, look, the great thing here is they don't take unnecessary risk. That's fantastic, but the risk is, pardon the pun, the risk there is that they don't seize on opportunities and they don't get outside their comfort zone. Okay, and that may leave them missing out on wealth creation options for their retirement planning. An adventurer, they thrive on that risk and reward. Okay, it's very important that they have a professional in their corner to work with them to make sure those risks are not reckless and they're calculated. The dreamers, they're our eternal optimists. They're leaving it a bit to the universe to work out what's going on. They've got great intentions, okay, but what they need is just a little bit of guidance to turn those intentions into actions. And finally, what is the current cash flow position? Now, this is just a starting point. So if you would identify in that first picture there sinking, it's not where you're going to be forever, okay? And why this is important is we need to understand how you feel it is. As a financial advisor and looking at cash flow, I'll have my own sort of take of where the cash flow situation is, but it's a perception thing of how the individual feels they're going, okay? So someone that's sinking, need to understand that cash flow equation a little bit better. Often with some small tweaks for my clients and some clear direction, we can pass from sinking to floating, getting head above water and having surplus funds with some small tweaks. And I'll talk about some of those in a little bit of detail shortly. If we get to that floating stage, or we're in that floating stage, we're not really getting anywhere, but we're okay. Need to understand what tweaks or what strategy and plan that can elevate us to this good cash flow position where we're flying, okay? And then if we are flying, I'll say to people that say this as well, are we flying in the right direction? Do we know where we're heading? Flying might be, yeah, we don't worry about money. We've got heaps left over every month, but so it feels great. But are we actually doing what we should be with it? Okay. And there's many people that are in that position that know they're fine, but don't know where they're heading towards. Now, any financial empowerment plan needs to create structures so you can stick to this stuff. Things like how money flows, do you have just one bank account or do you have 10, 12, 15? You need to have the right structures in place so you can stay the course. Having direct debits and bills accounted for, weekly necessities accounted for, all those sort of things, trying to automate and simplify as much as possible is going to give you the greater chance for sustained success. Okay, it's not, we're busy with our own, work lives and busy lives with family, friends, etc. You don't want to make this overly complicated because we won't be able to stick to it long term. And at the end of the day here, it's sustained success was one of the key words I mentioned earlier. It's not a fad diet that's gone by Feb or March. Okay, it needs to be things that can stay the course week after week, month after month, year after year. So what are some of those debt reduction strategies that I was talking about? So you may have heard of some of these, may not have. One of the key methods is the snowball method. So what is it? It's about focusing in on the smaller debts first, if you do have multiple debts, and eliminating them first and foremost. The key advantage for this is it starts to build that momentum. You get a psychological boost by seeing 4 debts become 3, 3 become 2, etc. One thing to be aware of here is there may be more of a cost that's associated with this because you might be focusing on a smaller balance that has a lower interest rate than something else that has a higher balance and a higher interest rate. So it could cost you more in interest along the way. The thing to consider though is if you do this and you can be motivated and sustainably stick to it, if you did it another way, is there a risk that the wheels might fall off the wagon and you don't get there? And that's what I'm going to cover off in the next approach, which is the avalanche method. This is where we target the higher interest rates first. Clear positive here is where you tackling the most costly debt, so you minimize the interest that's paid. The risk here is that sustainability piece. Depending on your motivation style, like what motivates you, you might take a while to see the benefits. 4 debts might stay 4 debts for a while. Okay, and if that means you are at risk of falling off the wagon, well, it might not be the right approach for you. So there is no black and white, right or wrong between the snowball method and the avalanche method. Depends on your situation and what motivates you to stay on track. Some other methods we've got to eliminate debt is balance transfer. Okay, so moving all credit card debts onto a low or 0% interest card. They'll be generally on an introductory offer. It might be 1 or 3 months. You need to understand the T's and C's that are on offer here. There's some real clear positives for that, obviously, the introductory offer and cheap interest. But the other is taking multiple repayments and multiple debt amounts and consolidating down into one credit card. Okay, and really working hard in that period where you do have a great introductory offer or 0% and trying to get as much of it down in that period as possible. Bit of a call out is a bit of a risk or thing to consider. Watch out for the fees or the rising interest rates after that promotion period if you don't forecast that you'll be able to get it gone by then. Okay, and just make sure that it is in the long run going to be the best option. And then a debt consolidation loan, a little bit similar to the last one, obviously without the 0% saving that you have there. It's combining multiple loans or credit cards into one loan. The positive here, if done strategically and well, is your overall cost of interest could be lower. Main benefit being that it's one single balance and one single repayment to manage rather than lots of little pieces as before. Key consideration, check the T's and C's. Do the number crunch to make sure that the consolidation of your current debts to this new debt consolidation loan that you are saving, or at least level pegging on the interest rate. Because yeah, if you've got multiple debts around 8, 9, 10%, and you take a debt consolidation loan at 14%, you're not getting an interest saving there. You are getting the benefit of just one narrow focus to pay down, but yeah, you might not, or you won't be paying less in interest. But if you are, with a few debts, some at 8, some at 19, some at 15, and you are getting a 12, 13% debt consolidation loan, general likelihood is that your overall cost of interest is going to work out favorable. So make sure you do due diligence and research to understand if that's right for you. Next up, we'll talk about where we get to find that cash surplus, okay, and how clients get from that sinking to floating or floating to flying. Over the years, we've seen with clients that Kiwis fritter about 15% of their household income. That's crazy, isn't it? And we're not about cutting the fun. This is not about living on toast and 2-minute noodles for the rest of your life to achieve that 15%. Okay, it's incorporating the right things that matter to you first, and then where there could be slippages. Some of those could be things like, if you enjoy takeaways, Uber Eats first going down and actually, again, that laziness tax that we have of picking something up could be an extra $5, $10, $15, $20 on that order. If you're doing that a couple of times a week, well, first question is, can we get that couple of times down to 1? But if a couple of times is what it needs to be, if we could save $40 a week because we just pick up that car, avoid that lazy or that convenience tax that we pay, $40 times 52, you can do the math there. It's going to be worth it. Another common area is groceries. Okay, not having a bit of a plan in place and just being a bit aimless if you are in the supermarket or taking multiple trips to the supermarket. The stores are designed to get us, again, buying things that we might not need. Okay, so if we eliminate, obviously we can't eliminate food and the need for groceries, but if we can reduce the amount of trips we're making to the supermarket, that's going to cause a big improvement in food spending. Forgetting about online subscriptions is a pretty common one. You might have signed up for a free trial for something and it just automatically rolls over 3 or 6 or 12 months later or a month later and we just forget about it. Okay, that's a common theme. Another common one is not doing that audit of how many things we actually have. Depends on the circumstances, but are you actually using 6, 7, 8, 9 subscriptions that some people might have? So doing a bit of an audit of those. If you do have a mortgage, is it being structured correctly? Is another big area of where that fritter comes from. And lastly, utilities and things like insurances. Again, that loyalty and lazy tax we have of just leaving it for years and years and not actually shopping that around. As long as the electricity's getting the lights turned on and the fridge is operating, nobody here would want to pay more for that service, would they? Okay, so again, understanding what offers are out there every now and then, so we're not just incurring potentially a higher cost for the same service as the person next door. Client example of this, really, really front of mind, clients that have just started this year, been able to find $500 a month just literally in the last week, okay, that they can make tweaks to before really doing a whole lot of work around money patterns and where we really want to get them optimized around that food spending. But we've found $500 a month just with some slight tweaks to what they're doing. Okay, that's $6K a year that they can put towards debt reduction and wealth creation. So leveraging off good debt, as we talked a little bit about mortgages and whatnot. Good debt is investing in growth, assets or skills. We want to crush bad debts because it opens up our opportunities for future wealth creation, which I'll briefly touch on in just a second, because we want to use that debt to propel us further, building wealth and financial freedom. Things like purchasing a home, fantastic. It's one of the great achievements that you might feel in life. The next thing we want to do is crush the mortgage. Why do we want to do this? And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's a topic that's worth its own webinar, and we've done a fair few of these. You could possibly look back on our back catalogs of them, or there'll be more coming up. But really briefly, it's a beneficial cycle. Okay, you get into that home, got to pay down the mortgage as fast as possible. Why? Well, there's obviously interest savings of smashing the debt down. But when you pay down debt, you grow something called equity. Now, equity is the difference between the value of the property and the loan or the amount owing to the bank. You can't fully control the value of the property, but if you can, what you can control is how efficiently you pay down the debt. So that's how you can grow some equity, whilst obviously appreciation in the value of the property will do its thing in the background. Why that's important? We can leverage off that equity. And what I mean by that is you can grow wealth through an investment property, another asset with that equity figure. So let's have an example really quickly. Bought a place for 800,000, you owe 600,000, you have $200,000 of equity. If we can get 200 paid off over X amount of years, the property goes up to $1 million, okay, and you now owe 400,000, you have $600,000 in equity. And the amount you've repaid has helped you be able to re-access those funds. Why we like for clients to do that is property versus other assets is you can use that equity for property. You can use that leverage piece. It's not that property itself outperforms other asset classes. In some aspects, it doesn't, but it's the leverage piece. The ability to purchase a second asset worth $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 compared to potentially putting $100K into another asset class. Okay, another reason is that we like it as well is it's a little bit less volatile. Even in a recession like we've sort of gone through, people need roofs over their heads. Okay, so rental properties, it's that recession-proof type. If bought well with a strategy and a plan in place, generating that income during a downturn in the economy when money might be getting a little bit tighter elsewhere. But as I said, definitely a topic worth exploring, and I'm sure some of the team, and we will be as the year goes on, but just a real brief touch of the scratch of the surface there. A good financial plan and a good financial goal needs a good plan in place. A good plan, what does it have? It's got clarity, direction, and focus of what you've got to work towards. Structure in play, build structures for you to help drive steady progress. Okay, it's again, like I said, I'm going to keep harping on about that. It's not that get rich quick style. Okay, we want to drive steady, consistent wins over the long term. It does need to be flexible and agile. Okay, life is going to throw curveballs. Now they can be good or bad. Okay, something might come along your way. Being able to have a plan in place to seize that opportunity that can come your way is fantastic. And lastly, we want to celebrate the milestones and not focus just on the end goal. Break up the end goal into milestones along the way. It's those wins that you get along the way that motivate you and reinforce the commitment. Your debt reduction plan, it needs to have the following things. It needs to have spending alerts to help you know that where you're at. If you don't know if you're on track or not, it's very hard to progress forward. Avoid credit cards at all costs. Like if I could, if you can remember one big thing out of this, try to get out of that habit for those things where you could overspend. Sure, if there's a direct debit that's useful or a bill that's saved to a card and you're not being stung by high fees doing it, there's no risk of overspend there. But where it's going out and as part of your everyday transacting, it's going to really limit your growth potential. Understand the necessities, prioritize these first and foremost. Ensure you got systems that account for them and automate as much as possible. Buffers, can't stress this, this is so important. So important that you build 3 months worth of living costs on call to avoid that derailing situation before, and keep building on that. Get to that 3 to 6 month mark. Goals are super. They give you the reason. They keep you motivated. Okay, and this stuff isn't easy, but with systems and structures in place, you turn something that's not easy, but it's far from impossible. Okay, with the motivation and seeing your progress along the way, how great it is. Okay, but if you don't avoid it, like we said in that initial poll earlier, that's the last thing we want to be doing. Okay, and that's, so go on to this next slide. We don't want to do nothing. We don't want to ignore it. Doing nothing changes nothing. When we are in that debt reduction mode, really important to try and not take on any new debt. Okay, if we can. the way we can do that is by building those buffers in place. So if something unfortunate happens, we have something else to fall back on. Consolidating debts without a strategy. I said before, each one of those have pros and cons. So make sure you understand what's the right strategy for you, because they all have their risks and might not be the best for you. And yeah, any band-aid solutions that are not going to solve something, with those quick fixes. But the most important thing here is you've got to shift your perspective. Whatever your current debt position was from that initial poll that we had, current debt isn't failure. It's just a challenge. Okay. Once you beat that challenge, you're going to be so empowered to achieve some amazing financial goals that you didn't think were possible, probably haven't even thought of yet while you're in the debt reduction mode. Okay. It's not failure. Shift that perspective and mindset. Super important when you are getting on top of your money that it helps manage stress. Seeking advice, helps give that clarity and, narrows the focus to what you should be aiming for. Be around people that are good influences, acknowledge the ones that aren't. Don't let them derail you or bring you down. Celebrate successes that you'll have along the way. Mindfulness, whatever works for you here that helps maintain your focus and habits. And make sure we've got systems in place to avoid temptations and falling back into some bad habits. Okay, it's going to take time, but you will reap the benefits, because when a plan is working, you feel in control. It's a fantastic position to be in. You've got a newfound empowerment of your finances. You've noticed the progress. You've got bigger ambitions and opportunities pop up that, you can seize upon. You improved well-being, reduced stress, better sleep, focus in all areas of life, etc. Money's such a key contributor to lack of quality sleep. Going to bed at night, stressing about money, next thought comes into the head, etc. So having a plan that's working for you is just going to do so much to your well-being. Momentum and growth. As I said before, you tick things off along the way. You get a dopamine hit each time. Okay, and then the goals become bigger and you just get better and better at setting the next one and getting that next win. And at the end of the day, it leads to that greater freedom. Having choices that you didn't realize, growing wealth and building a future that you aspire to. So just talk to now, I've talked a little bit about what we do with some of our clients here, but what Enable Me Coach really is about is identifying your true potential, identifying capacity and pushing you to reach it. Maximizing that cash flow surplus is how you take control of your money. Again, it's all about a tailored solution for your best strategy to achieve this, not a cookie cutter approach, not reading a book that might tell you there's 50% of your money should go here, 30 here, and 20% here, and that book's never met you before. Okay, maximize your surplus for your situations, your motivation factors, etc. We help boost your confidence. We ambitiously goal set with you along the way, celebrate your wins, and we be adaptable as life changes. Okay, structure and accountability really, really is what coaching is all about, whether it's financial coaching or having a good coach in general, whether it's a sports thing, a life coach, career coach. It's someone in your corner, okay, who's championing you and celebrating your success, but it's also someone there that's holding you to account. So you do reach your true potential. And having a real holistic approach, not, as I said before, here's what you do, and it's the same for the next person and the next person and the next person. It's a tailored plan to your goals, identifying what motivates you and how you're going to achieve your true success. Okay, and another big part of that's identifying things in advance of you being able to achieve them is a real key part. Once you've had so many wins along the way, showing you what's next all the time. Okay, because it builds momentum. You might be in a short-term debt position now, or you might have a large mortgage, etc. It won't stay that way. It won't stay that way. So we need to take you along the journey of celebrate those wins and what's next. And shortly, I'll show you an offer on the screen to book in with myself or one of the team. But before I get to that, just the key takeaways I want to make sure you take away from today. Again, pardon the pun there. We want to kill the debt as quickly as possible. Being in debt is like quicksand. It's hard to get out of. We need to eliminate it with the right strategy for you. Cash flow is key. Okay, need to understand that formula well. income versus expenses. Staying on track, that 80-20 rule, 80% behavior, 20% strategy. Having structures, targets, and accountability, they're essential. They're essential for you to get that sustained success. Celebrate progress and not perfection. Okay, don't just focus in on the end goal. Celebrate the little wins along the way. Because if you just focus on the end and it's 18 months away, as I said before, there's work and graft to go to get there. If you just focus there and don't get those dopamine hits of all the success you've had along the way and the little wins, it reduces your chance to get to that end goal at the end of the day. And then most importantly, need to shift that money mindset that you might be in. Okay, now if you're in a position where you're not happy with your current position, it's not failure. It's not the end. Okay, it's the start is going forward from here. Okay, your current position is just a challenge you're going to work through. And when you can achieve that with a team around you, success isn't as far away as you may think. Okay, and when you get these wins, it just takes you to that next level. Okay, so if you are in, don't take, when I've talked about bad debts and credit cards and buy now, pay laters, if that's you, if you have those, don't worry. Okay, do not think, oh God, Justin has said all these things that I shouldn't be doing, and I do them all. That's the past. What matters is what's going forward from here. Okay, and it's a challenge to work through, but we know it can work. And that's why, like, if you are, and for anyone, not just people in that situation there, I really would strongly recommend to take up this offer on the screen here to book in a consultation to get to the bottom of your finances. Take this general information from today's webinar and tailor it to your individual circumstance. Okay, so book in, whether it's with myself or one of the amazing team advisors at Enable Me. If you are on the call and obviously use the QR code or the link on the screen and you book tonight, you will get that normal $400 consultation fee for $149. Okay, if it's booked after tonight, it's still got a great discount there of $249. But if you are obviously on that call, take up that offer, book in, and yeah, me or one of the team will have a consultation with you and understand what your goals are and where to next. Now, obviously, it's just a booking that gets made tonight. Don't need to host the consultation after this. So just get that booking through. The team will be in touch and we'll go through the process and meet in the coming weeks. We can chat about some of the stuff I've spoken about tonight and yeah, dig a little bit deeper into your personal scenario. But my producer, Amelia, is going to just jump on now for me and we'll go through some Q&A.
Thanks, Justin. Some questions have been submitted for this webinar Q&A section. So our first question is from someone asking, what are the first steps to take when trying to break a bad money habit?
Yeah, look, I think hopefully you're on the call tonight, whoever has submitted that question, because that's probably one of the first steps is getting knowledge and doing something. Okay, and listening to this, and if I am answering you and you're on the call, fantastic. That's one of the very first steps. It's then, I'd say after that, it's use the information that you've got that has been general in nature, see what you can do to make it specific to your situation, and then talk to somebody about it. That would be my next steps for it. Yeah.
Our second question is, where do I direct money once we've paid off the credit card?
Yeah, look, again, if you have asked this question, I don't know your specific scenario exactly, but what I would say is building up that cash flow buffer would be my first port of call. Okay, get to that financial resilience piece of having 6 months worth of living costs on call. That's assuming you know your budget really well as well. I hope and assume that you do, because you've had a great goal there of paying off the credit card. So yeah, if you don't know the ins and outs of your budget, that would be first step. But then after that, if you do, try to build a resilience fund of six, a starting point of 3 months of living costs, building towards 6 months of living costs.
Our third question is, when is each of the mortgage types best? For example, fixed rate versus floating versus offsetting.
Yeah, look, similar to the snowball and the avalanche, there's no right or wrong answer to that, unfortunately. I think if you are, again, hopefully listening now or watching a recording that'll get sent out, you've got to book in and talk to somebody about it. There's no right or wrong answer to that.
Our last question, should the mortgage for investment property be interest only?
Again, slightly depends on your scenario. If you have a home mortgage, or I would say yes there. Okay, but talking sort of without knowing your scenario, it's hard to say. But if there's a home mortgage, we want to tackle that one first. If that's paid off and you've mortgage free on the home, then we can start to look to pay down some of that debt. But yeah, I would be keeping it on interest only if there's a home debt to tackle. Right. I think we've got any others to cover off? I think I'm just going through some of the Q&A. There's been some we've covered within the 4 that Amelia have said. And yeah, for anyone that is still listening or might have missed the beginning of this, you will get a recording sent out. If I think the team have sent that out, they'll send it out tomorrow. So yeah, if you did miss any of this, recording will go out tomorrow. But yeah, I've like you guys, spring in a step, new year, love to meet new people. So book in, and yeah, let's get to chat a little bit more about your situation and your scenario and your goals, and yeah, not just set them, but let's achieve them in 2025. So thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, if you do want to book in, take up that offer. So it's enable.me/tackling/debt, or the QR code there. Book in tonight, save that extra $100 and book in with me or one of the team. Thank you.